Greetings, my friends. Welcome to the next episode of the Mint Mob podcast. Jason here, joined by my buddy and partner Alex over in Germany. How you doing, bud? How's things going over there for you?
Things are going great, man. It's actually pretty interesting right now. Exciting times. We have a very big mint ahead. Markets are bouncing pretty big. Bitcoin went back to 64. I think it kind of bounced back to 63, but it's holding pretty good. So yeah, news were pretty positive in every way this week. How did you witness it?
Yeah, same, man. There was a little bit of a pump, a little bit of a little run up, which is always fun to see. It's always the same story, man. The doomsayers come out, and when everything comes down, and then of course, I go buy some crypto, and then it turns around, and the next thing you know, I'm up, 20, 30%, and the naysayers are now talking about how everything's going to the moon. So it's always the same story, man. I never complain about dips in the marketplace. How about yourself?
Yeah, same. I mean, it's been like just two, three, four, I don't know how long, but a couple of weeks ago when we had that huge opportunity of buying Bitcoin at like what was it, 49, 50, something around that. And yeah, bought a lot back then. Haven't really bought on the recent dip, but whenever there is money to spend, I try to do it on a good little dip. We have a lot of opportunities, so once the real bull starts, nobody can actually say that there were not enough. So no excuses this time, right? So if you do not want to profit, like stay away from the markets and just watch the degens get rich again.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. I just actually listened to a podcast on this very topic, and it was so interesting to hear someone who's fully committed to the market. This guy's name is Raul Powell. And, he has an investment company, and he does a lot of things to promote like traditional investments originally, and now crypto investments. But basically, he's talking about how if you're paying attention, there's really no other place to be. And I kind of feel the same way, because ultimately, as AI comes, on board more and more and more, and this is happening really quickly. I don't think people realize how fast AI is evolving. At some point, you're going to have AI agents working for you, whether they're humanoid type robots cleaning your house, or whether it's, specifically programmed, bot that does your bills for you or does your investing for you. Like on some level, you have to realize this is coming, and these entities, whatever you want to call them, robots, entities, AI personas, whatever, they're not going to deal in traditional banks or traditional currencies. They're going to deal in cryptocurrency, because they're going to want everything to be done immediate, quickly. It needs to be trackable, and it needs to be fast. It needs to create digital scarcity, and that's what blockchain does. So as the world goes more and more toward, abundance, which is really what's coming with robotics and AI, what it means to be wealthy is going to look different. It's going to change. And so if you think about the currency that's going to power that ecosystem, it's not going to be, traditional investments. It's not going to be, gold miners and oil companies. It's going to be, crypto firms and techno firms, and you're going to want to have a massive stake in those. So right now is the time to accumulate. And, in Raul's terms, you've got about 6 years. According to him, you've got about 3 to 6 years to get your shit straight. Who knows? It might take a little longer than that, but on a long enough timeline, I think he's right about that.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the markets and if you look like how everything is set up, I feel like if you actually did your research and you know what blockchain is and what it's going to mean in the future, I feel like there is no other option than investing in blockchain. I mean, like there are a lot of people still out there like investing in traditional assets, gold, silver, which is not like wrong. I mean, you can do that, but I feel like you should always have a little percentage of your investments in cryptocurrency. But that's just my 2 cents. What I read is that Donald Trump is actually preparing to launch a crypto platform. Have you read about that?
I have not. You'll have to fill me in. What's going on with the Trumpster?
Not too many. Not like there are like little information out there. It's going to be called the Defiant Ones, and Trump said, like his quote actually was, "For too long, the average American has been squeezed by the big banks and financial elites. It is time we take a stand together." Funny thing is that it's not really disclosed what it's ultimately going to be, if it's like some sort of trading market or just a publication or maybe even a coin. Nobody really knows. But what's interesting is that recent financial disclosures show that Trump is still holding between 1 and 5 million USD in ETH, and that he made actually 7.2 million from his three NFT collections through licensing deals. And yeah, I mean, he made the money, but most of the people who bought these lost. Some tokens even lost value immediately after being purchased. Trading volume is down 99%. So yeah, what do you think about that?
I mean, I think it's brilliant. The guy, he did what he did to get inside a market, which a lot of people his age would completely ignore. I mean, this Trump collection came out years ago, the first one on Polygon, and it was selling for I think $99. And it was funny because I remember having the conversation with my wife. I'm like, you know what? I'm thinking about buying one of these, and I'm like, people like or don't like Donald Trump. Maybe I should just sit on the sidelines. And so I just waited and waited and waited, and they sold out, and I never ended up buying one. And then I look at the price, a few days later, and it's like 4x what the mint price was. And even now, like the best pieces are still up there. So I think in that collection, you're not going to have a lot of volume, but you definitely have people who really care about, like holding a piece of history in and around the Trump name. And the fact that he licensed it, the fact that he was on Polygon, the fact that he set it up smartly. In other words, like he took, I think the original mint page took credit cards. So you didn't have to have a wallet, which was beautiful, very, very smart. Kept, the average person in the loop and understanding how they could participate in getting a piece of those. I think he called them Trump digital trading cards, I think is what it was called. And so it was just done very smartly. And a lot of things that we've talked about inside Goodfellows and we've talked about in the mint process, they did with a team, of course, and executed flawlessly. So you got to give the guy credit for pulling it off, where most people have completely ignored it. And so props to him, man.
Yeah, but I also read that he's actually planning to drop another collection, like the would be the fourth one. But don't you think it's also about the investors as well? I mean, like for Trump, it looks like some sort of money printing machine because people will buy it anyway. But I mean, do you feel like obviously people are responsible for like what they invest in, but do you feel like Trump actually cares about his collections?
Well, obviously I'd have to have a conversation with him personally. I mean, I could just tell you what I think. I mean, I don't know that he's even involved, and I don't know that he needs to be, right? It's like if, like there's a Trump Tower in several major cities, right? Like Trump owned buildings in several major cities. And, the chances that Trump actually laid a brick or, polished a floor in any of those buildings is, next to zero. He pays people to do that. Just like he paid people to, license and produce this artwork and get it to the masses. So to the extent that he cares about his name and what his name's associated with, I think that matters more than whether or not he cares about the investor, because the investor is going to be rewarded as long as the name is valuable. So I think it's his job to make sure that the Trump brand stays valuable. And however he chooses to do that, whether it's running for president or, starring in the next, TV show or whatever it is that he does, as long as the brand is valuable, there'll be some value in the market. And you as an investor, you have to play the ups and downs. So if you're looking at NFTs as an investment, that's on you. I don't look at them that way yet. We're so early in the marketplace right now. It's just, for me, it's an acquisition play. And if I could find one cheap, I'd buy one. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, investors are responsible for where their money goes. And the value to the investor is created by the honoring of the brand by the founder or by the owner or by who it's associated with. And you saw this with like these cheese ball, shitty, celebrity shit coins that went out, right? Like all these celebrities decided to drop a shit coin during Solana shitcoin season, right? And how many of them did anything? Almost none, right? And then some of them turned out to be total rugs. And then you had the celebrity like, oh, that's not mine. They're trying to back away. I think if you're buying a Trump collection, you're buying the name, you're buying the brand, you're buying the celebrity. And Trump is out there being Trump. As long as he's standing behind what he says he is, then that's the value in the collection. And investors, if you buy right, you'll do okay. If you buy wrong, you won't. It's like anything else, I think.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see where all this goes. I mean, especially the election is going to be significant for Trump, obviously. But like a lot of people think that if he wins the election, it's going to be very positive for Bitcoin. Um, do you feel like this is true? Do you feel like this will actually somehow yeah somehow cause the bull run, or like the new all-time high to be earlier just because of the election? Or do you feel like we just have to stick to the cycle and wait for next year?
I think excuse me, I think the Fed is going to move the market faster or slower than anything. I mean, you saw this recently, right? When you looked at debt to GDP ratios in the U.S., the U.S. debt is through the roof, as it is in so many countries around the world, which is why, all these central banks keep printing money and printing money and printing money in one form or another. I mean, they're not actually printing money. They're, selling bonds or doing QE or whatever they want to call it. But the net effect is they're creating more currency. And so as long as that's the case, central banks will continue to have to drop interest rates to stimulate economies when people are doing poorly. So it's like this negative, just never-ending cycle. And so the Fed met, a few weeks ago, and they said, well, we're going to leave rates unchanged. And then that pushed Bitcoin down along with the rest of the crypto market. And then just, I think it was this past week or Friday, maybe it was, they issued some sort of statement around the fact that, oh, we might have to drop interest rates. We might have to loosen monetary policy a little bit. And then what happened? The first thing people did was buy risk assets, and that included Bitcoin. So Bitcoin shot back up. So I think the Federal Reserve, now that we've got traditional markets involved in owning so much Bitcoin, I think the Federal Reserve and central banks in general can move the market more than anyone quickly. Now, obviously, with the Republicans and Trump being more pro crypto than the Democrats, if he is elected, I think that's a positive thing in terms of adoption and in terms of personal sovereignty. But I still think the central bank basically holds all the cards at this point because, again, how closely is the president tied to Wall Street? Not very, but Wall Street is very closely tied to what the Federal Reserve does. And so they're going to watch the Federal Reserve more than anything.
Yeah, that perfectly makes sense. And another news I read, um, also related to the United States, is that the state of Wyoming. Let me just check, where's Wyoming actually? Is it like the northern part of the United States?
It's west.
Give me one
It's out
second.
west.
It's west, okay.
Yeah.
It's right above Colorado and Utah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, whatever. The state of Wyoming is pushing crypto payments, creating US dollar backed stablecoin. So they are creating a US dollar backed stablecoin called the the Wyoming stablecoin. Very creative. Planning to launch in the first quarter of 2025, giving individuals and businesses a faster and cheaper way to transact while creating a new revenue stream for the state. Mark Gordon, the governor of Wyoming, said that it is clear to me or to him that digital assets have a future. Have you ever heard about that?
Just now. I mean, I know this is happening. There's been other states that are doing similar things and cities as well. Like we've got Miami Coin, for example. And this is fantastic news because as adoption continues to expand into different markets and cities, I mean, one of the biggest challenges that you have in high tax jurisdictions, like California, for example, New York, for example, like the New England states, like the Massachusetts and places like that, is that people are very pissed off about where their tax dollars are going. Even people who are okay paying tax are like, well, I don't get my money's worth for my taxes. Like I'm not getting any value in return. And so with crypto and things like Miami Coin and what Wyoming is doing, it's basically returning some of the influence on government back to the people. Because if you think about it, if you can convert from any currency to any currency, from any token to any token, and you can spend that token anywhere you want, and then the state or the city participates in a percentage of that transaction, then you're going to spend the money in a jurisdiction that most benefits you. So now the idea of incentive is shifted to where, governments on some level have to be more responsible and accountable to the people. And I think that's the big breakthrough with like Miami Coin or, this token scheme that Wyoming is just talking about that you've mentioned. The more accountability that government has, the better results it's forced to create. And right now, there is no accountability in government. This is why you can have somebody like a Joe Biden become president. He was in politics for 50 years and did nothing. Like 50 years of living off the taxpayer. And what have we gotten from that? Nothing. Literally nothing. So at the end of the day, I think people are just fed up watching their tax dollars burned.
Okay, let's just go through that idea of the Wyoming stable token. So I definitely see the advantage of like being able to convert any cryptocurrency to that stable token, but the article actually stated that, you know, faster and cheap that it would be a faster and cheaper way to transact. I don't really see that. Like, how is it actually being faster than having like a normal, let's say, credit card payment? You know,
Well, in terms of settlement,
and I'm not. Ah, right. Okay, now I get it. Yeah, okay. Yeah. But don't you think it would be like it would make more sense to have like a if they actually wanted to create that token, like you mentioned the Miami token as well,
mhm.
to have like a token that is like for the whole United States?
No. I mean, the idea behind the United States was that every state would basically kind of be its own government, and that gives people choice.
Mm.
So like if California is in the shitter, which like right now it is, which is why so many companies are leaving California to go to Texas or Florida, for example, you create competition among the states. So now the states have to do something different to earn business, to make their state more viable for people and for people to move in and for, business and for quality of life. And what's happened is, the complete opposite. So anytime we can have the states competing for, immigration, for business, for quality of life, that's a good thing because where people move is going to directly impact how local governments respond and act toward one another.
But do you see that as some sort of future? Like you as a citizen of the United States, you know, living the American dream, would you be willing to, for example, if you made a trip through the United States, you went to Wyoming, having the Wyoming stable coin, then you drive to, I don't know, Kansas, would you be like, would it be cool for you if you entered another state and then being like, all right, now I gotta convert like my Wyoming token to the Kansas stable coin?
Um, I mean, that's a possibility, certainly. I mean, it's certainly a possibility that you would need to do something like that. But I think it's also more realistic that you would hold a percentage, of whatever wealth you have in that local stable coin and just leave it alone, right? Like, so if I'm a resident of Wyoming, let's say I lived in Cheyenne, Wyoming, right? Or I lived in Jackson near the Tetons, and I enjoy my little vacation house where I can look at the mountains, right? Which is interestingly enough where the Federal Reserve meets every year, right? So like I can go and keep tabs on the Federal Reserve from my vacation home in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. If I live there, if I'm a resident there, I'm going to want to hold a percentage of my income or my wealth in that local token, regardless of where I travel. And then probably where I travel, I would take, maybe a standard token like a USDC or even a currency like the dollar, and just convert it to wherever I'm going so that I could then spend locally. But I don't think any one state is proposing replacing the US dollar. This would be in addition to, right? So you wouldn't necessarily use dollar rails. You would just use a local currency rail because, again, like they're saying, it's faster and, cheaper in terms of, like you mentioned, credit cards or swiping debit cards. Every time a business here swipes a credit card, it's 3% that the business has to pay. If it's a debit card, it's almost 2% that the business has to pay of that transaction. And so if you can just basically do a transaction on a public blockchain or on a blockchain for pennies, I mean, that's way cheaper for business and way faster. So your settlement rails are faster, your fees are lower, so there's a lot of benefits in doing that. But, I mean, if I'm a resident of Miami or a resident of Wyoming or whatever, I'm probably not going to be swapping in and out of those tokens unless I'm planning to leave permanently.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I feel like whenever we draw these, um, when we draw our little wonderlands here, I feel like, I definitely do get it when people say that. I mean, imagine telling someone who's, I don't know, at the age of 75, 80, talking about like, hey, get your stable coin on the blockchain. And, they have no idea what you're talking about. And I mean, that's a matter of adoption, obviously, a problem that needs to be solved. But I feel like we are still not there, and it might take some time until, actually everybody is willing to hold crypto and use it.
For sure. I mean, I'm just reading this press release as you're talking because I haven't researched this at all. But basically, it looks like it's a mixed bag of responses to what this could be, because there's really no plan for what it's going to be yet. But if we look at what they're basically saying, is that like the headline reads, Wyoming stable token response to U.S. CBDC hesitation. So it's basically what Wyoming is saying. We're doing this because the U.S. central bank digital currency has been put on hold or has been shelved, right? And so, like central bank digital currencies are a really bad idea, especially if they're made legal tender, because now the central banks can tell you or control you because they would then control the blockchain that token lives on. But if Wyoming is issuing a stable coin pegged to the dollar that's going to run on some sort of proprietary chain that is public and auditable, then that's a different thing. Because if Wyoming decides to get too draconian with what they're doing, or if people don't have confidence in it, then they just simply won't use it. So this isn't being proposed to replace the dollar. This isn't being proposed for any other purpose other than like speed and accountability reasons, like audit purposes. And that's a really good idea from the standpoint of eliminating, waste, because now you could probably get rid of 1,000 government employees who track payments from business to business. So if you can save costs and provide value, it's a good thing. And as long as it's not tied to some mandated central bank digital currency, then you can't be controlled. And if it only lives, or if it's only worth something inside the borders of Wyoming, then if Wyoming gets too crazy, then you can just move to another state, right? So from this standpoint, from what it looks like, it looks okay to me. Like it doesn't really look like it would have much of an impact on anything other than it's just an idea whose time has come, right? And in terms of older people using it, I'm guessing based on what I'm reading here that they wouldn't have to. It's just another option,
Yeah, gotta admit it. It's been a while since I read it. I think it was like 1 or 2 weeks ago, and I think I just saw it on a tweet somewhere. Let me see if I actually saved the source. But whatever. I mean, that definitely makes more sense the way you just explained it. That they're actually not planning to use it as some sort of currency, if I understood right, to replace the U.S. dollar. Um, let me just check if I get the article that I had.
Yeah, according to this, it's just supposed to be pegged to the dollar. It would basically be like a dollar substitute.
Yeah.
So, so settlement would happen faster, So like if you're a business in Wyoming and I'm a business in Wyoming, and let's say you and I do I don't know, $100,000 transaction, and we do this across, I don't know, like a bank wire, or, maybe we do it a business credit transaction. I mean, it's going to take 2 or 3 days for that transaction to settle and for those funds to become available. And if we're doing it in stable tokens rather than using traditional dollar rails or credit rails, then we could be done in 5 minutes and everything is spendable and usable immediately, right? So, I mean, that's really what the sales pitch looks like here. And the governor specifically is targeting businesses for transactions here. Which, if you're a state government, this makes a lot of sense too, because like I said, you can audit the public blockchain very quickly and easily. And what would be really nice is if you're a business and you're doing lots of transactions in Wyoming, and the government has a public ledger, it would be really nice if they had someone who just basically or had some application that basically just read your transactions on the blockchain, so you don't have to actually file with them every month, right? Because like here in the U.S., if you're doing business in a particular state, like for one of my businesses, I have to file a tax return at the end of every single month, and it's just annoying, frustrating, ridiculous nonsense that is basically the state keeping tabs on whatever business you do. So if they want to keep tabs, they can just read. Your company could be assigned, a public facing wallet that, only you had the private keys to, and they could read that into an application and basically file your taxes for you. You won't have to worry about it, which would be super nice because now you free up more time and you could have your person who normally does that, do something productive rather than filing paperwork with the state.
Yeah, man, that's actually a great utility for that. I mean, that's the beauty of blockchain, right? And I just read that I think Russia is about to launch two crypto exchanges and stable coins linked to the um, yuan. I don't know how to pronounce the Chinese currency and BRICS currency. And yeah, you see all that coming, and I feel like all these states have realized the importance and the use of blockchain technology, and this is going to be very good news in the end. I feel like for the whole market.
Oh, for sure. And this is actually a really big deal that you mentioned that, the Russian exchange and doing business in the yuan, which is exactly how you say that. The This points to the fact that the BRICS nations, basically the Brazil, Russia, India, China, these nations are done with the U.S. dollar. That's what this is signifying, right? They've already started doing business outside the dollar in some of the oil-producing countries, which is a big blow to the dollar, which means that fewer and fewer foreign countries are going to be willing to buy U.S. debt. And this is a big problem for anyone holding dollars because it's going to devalue your dollars. When you can't sell the bonds, when you can't sell the debt to foreign nations, when they slow down their buying and they stop buying altogether, all of those, paper dollars come flooding back home, which basically makes your currency even weaker. So, I mean, I think this just points to the fact that there's a loss of confidence in major nations for the value of the U.S. dollar because it's been so manipulated by the U.S. government. And this is one way to circumvent massive losses if you're holding U.S. dollars, because now you can start transacting in your own currency or in a currency that you and another country agree to. And people really need to understand the importance of that. And, we talk all the time about how early we are. It's such a cliche. Oh, we're so early to the market. But you really, really are. And this is where you want to be because of developments like this sort of subvert underneath the headlines. They sort of, ride in the background. People aren't really paying attention until they do, right? Like it's all normal until it goes exponential. And when it goes exponential, you want to already be in the market, which is what we keep telling people, right? So buy quality assets, NFTs, tokens, et cetera, et cetera. But something like this, if you're outside the U.S., maybe you don't understand the implications. But inside the U.S., if you're an investor and you're paying attention, you know exactly what this means. It means more dollar inflation. It means less interest in the dollar, less business will be done in the dollar. And so that means you better protect yourself. And what that's going to cause is major holders of US dollars, even inside the country, to start buying foreign assets, which is which is kind of crazy when you think about the implications, being that the US is one of the world's largest financial superpowers.
So you're basically telling people to buy Bitcoin,
I
if I
definitely want to
understand
buy
you
some
right,
Bitcoin, yeah, for
to
sure.
protect. All right, man. So let's jump a little bit into the Goodfellas as well. And we actually have a pretty big drop coming up on September 20, which is going to be on Stargaze. We are launching on a chain we've never been before. Um, and we actually managed to get in touch with the artist of the ladies because our little Stargaze drop is going to introduce our female art. And as some people may know, that the artist is actually called Batunos. His real life name is Lewis, and yeah, we managed to get in touch with him to adjust the art a little bit, to enhance it, to get some new traits. And I have to say that Lewis, I don't know if you listen to this, but he is definitely a very very nice guy. And I've been talking to many artists out there, and I see that he is definitely an exception. He is like willing to help you or to help us. He's willing to work with us. He's very communicative. What's like the right word
You
here?
you got it,
Help me a
man.
little bit.
I keep telling you, man, your English is better
Yeah.
than most
Okay.
Americans. Communicative, yeah.
Perfect. So I just gotta keep trying. And yeah, I think you've been in touch with him when we made the licensing agreement as well. So you got to know him as well, and we created a little group. Speaking about the collection, trying to make the best of it, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And have you actually ever heard the story of how the ladies were created?
I have only bits and pieces, but I hear that you've got the goods, man. I hear that you spoke to Lewis, and Lewis is German. I guess we should clarify, since you and he
Yeah.
both speak native German. You probably got all of the color around the story, and I'm sure I only have bits and pieces. So I'm curious, man. Tell me the whole story. How did it go down?
Yeah, I'll actually try to keep it short because, like Lewis and I, when we send voice messages to each other, they are usually like at least 10 minutes long. So I'll try to keep it short here. But fun fact is that back then, when Lewis started working with, I usually don't like mentioning the old names, but like just for the story now, he worked with Basel and Sarah pretty close. Sarah was known as the godmother in the old Art of Mob project. And what was interesting is that Lewis was actually very limited in like in what he was like allowed to create, because when Basil and Sarah like talked to him and like tried to explain what they actually want to have as a collection, they even sent him like folders full of images and pictures of, I think he said, for example, he got like images of like the English royal family. And Jason and I, we've been talking about that a lot, that the ladies collection is very high class. You can actually see that that was actually like the purpose of it. Like that's what Lewis was supposed to create. That's what they wanted, and like I said, they were very aware of what they wanted. And um, yeah, they when Lewis in the very beginning, when he was like trying to create something that he thought would be cool, like Basil and Sarah immediately told him that that's not the way they wanted. That's so he always had to redo it, and then they like gave him the exact explanation and like tons of pictures of what they want, like from every hand trait, from the hair traits, the outfits, and everything. And Lewis felt like, hey, okay, like you are giving me the exact guide of what you want, so you're actually making it pretty easy for me. So yeah, he created all these traits, and what he also added, and like what is pretty understandable from his perspective, is that he was extremely surprised when he found out that the project rugged, because he felt like they were like so picky about the art, and it like to him it felt like they had everything planned to the fullest. Like they had plans for the whole future, for everything they wanted to do. They were so picky about the collection, as I mentioned, that Lewis was actually so surprised that they rugged. And I think we all were, and I think we've said it plenty of times that we feel like it has not been their initial idea to actually come up and like mint two collections and rock after. Um, yeah, but this is it, like in a nutshell. Actually, like it's interesting to hear that they even send out like folders and folders and like tons of images of like that sort of stuff that we see ended up being the collection for Lewis to recreate in art. And yeah, I actually told Lewis that this is not like the style that we want for the finished collection. Jason and I, we've been talking a lot about how we actually want it and what we want to have changed. Obviously, we are not going to reveal that yet here, to keep the surprise. Um, but yeah, what do you think about the collection? Like if you look at it like in its whole completion, like all the traits we have, all the hair traits we have, do you feel like it's still good after all, or do you feel like you would have done it completely different?
Yeah, I would have done it a little bit differently. We've talked about this a little bit, and not to get too crazy into the details, but one of the things that we want to do is bring a little bit more sexy badassery, into that collection. So, I mean, I can see what Lewis did, and I can see the sort of prim and proper clothing and hairstyles and that sort of thing. And there's a place for that, and that's cool on one level. But when I'm thinking in terms of like mob boss wives or lady bosses, I'm thinking a little bit differently. I'm thinking more badass. I'm thinking a little bit more sex appeal, and I'm thinking more modern hairstyles and outfits. So ultimately, hopefully we can get Luis to help us create that, especially in his style, because his style is just amazing. Like, he's a fantastic artist. And so, if he can help us do that, then I'm stoked to make that a reality. And I think we can really, take this collection to another level. And this is kind of what we started doing with the fellas, like the male version, the male form. It's just elevating it, cleaning up the art a bit, elevating it, adding a few things here and there, not to completely revamp it or redo it, but just to elevate it, like give it a little bit more flavor. And so, at the end of the day, that's what I'm going to be basically looking for from Luis. And based on what you were telling me and some of the constraints that were put on him, I think he's, more than willing to jump into that and take it on. And I'm actually really excited for what he could potentially create.
Yeah, so am I. I mean, obviously we do not have a lot of time until we are going to launch our collection on Stargaze. So I feel like we need to get in touch with them ASAP, and try to see what like the best solution is to get done in that short time we have left. But yeah, I mean, people who have followed us and people who have seen what we've dropped so far know that we wouldn't drop the collection if we were not like 100% satisfied. So yeah, let's see what we can do. I'm definitely looking forward to that. We've had a couple of discussions in the Discord regarding the um, regarding like setting up the Mint wallet for the Stargaze Mint. I wrote a little guide on there as well. So if you guys want to check it out, just go ahead. If you have questions, just reach out in the Discord. It's actually not that difficult. If you're familiar with blockchain technology and with the Magic Eden marketplace, it shouldn't be too difficult for you, and especially with some sort of decentralized exchanges. Um, if you want, you can obviously like just buy Atom like from your favorite exchange and then send it to your Leap or Kepler wallet. And yeah, then you should be good to go for the mint. We haven't really disclosed the mint price yet. I know STC, or no, was it ST? No, I think Yvette was it who has been asking for it in the Discord. We haven't really decided on that yet. We'll definitely try to disclose that information at least like two weeks before the mint. Um, and yeah, anything else we need to say regarding the mint? I'm not sure if I missed anything.
No, I don't think so. I mean, just a reminder, it's September 20th, and it will be on the Stargaze marketplace. So we definitely have a lot of work to do between now and then, getting the artwork settled out. So I'll be, reaching out to Lewis in the group chat that we've set up, and we'll be diving into that pretty hard this week, probably, and we'll see what we can come up with. And then, as an aside, because obviously he's super busy, I'm going to go ahead and do some work in addition to the work that he's doing, just to make sure that we're covered in case, he gets swamped between now and then, because I know we kind of threw him a last minute Hail Mary. But this is all part of it, like we've done everything that we can to work with, previous creators, and Luis is no exception. And I feel like this is an opportunity for him to really have a great chance to show off what he's really capable of in a really strong PFP collection. So I'm looking forward to what he produces, and I'm looking forward to getting to know him a little bit better and communicating with him. So, I mean, aside from just realizing it's going to be September 20th, we're going to have some revamped art. Obviously, we've posted a few, like peaks here and there, but those are just kind of hints at what's coming. So don't rely too heavily on those. And then in terms of pricing and mints and that sort of thing, obviously bosses, we're going to take care of you. We'll figure out what that looks like, and we'll probably end up doing like something along the lines of 21 to keep our internal theme going, with the homage to Bitcoin and the original collection and the original 21 million and that sort of thing. So it won't be too crazy in terms of cost, but again, there's only going to be 210 pieces to start with. And so obviously bosses, you get to eat first, and then we're going to bring in a list of whitelisted wallets from the Stargaze blockchain itself. And then those guys will get to mint. And basically what we're doing is we want to make sure that those guys who are holding the most pieces or holding the most staked tokens have an opportunity to come into our collection, because again, we're looking for those high-end collectors first. And then, of course, anything that they don't mint would go to public, and will allow, maybe a few digits to slip through the door. But, ultimately the idea is going to remain the same. Bosses eat first. You guys get the best deals, and then Stargaze whitelist would go next, and they'll get the second best deals, and then whatever's left over would go to public. And hopefully, I guess with 210 pieces, there probably won't be that many, because honestly, I'm going to mint my ass off when this goes live. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Oh man, we have to like double up the number of pieces just because of you, man. But yeah, I think we covered it all. I think we got all the important information out there. And yeah, we should be good for today.
Yeah, definitely. All right. That said, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We will be back live with Spaces on Friday. And we've been doing 10 a.m. I know, Alex, you said you wanted to go a little later. Are we going to go later or are we going to keep it at 10? What are we doing there, man?
Sorry, Mister. What are you talking about? What is going in 10 a.m.?
I'm sorry, I keep saying 10 a.m. because that's my local time.
Oh yeah. That's why I was kind of confused. You mean the spaces, right?
Yes, sir. The Spaces. Because you said that you needed a little
We
bit more
used
time, and then so we went late 2 weeks ago, and then this week we were back at 10. So are we going to stay at 10? We probably should have discussed this before we jumped on here, but I'm curious if we need to go a little later or not.
I think it would be good, like in general, but I gotta say, the coming Friday, I have to go. Like we have to stick to the old time because I got some late night plans.
Okay. So what is that, 5 p.m. UTC?
5 p.m. UTC exactly. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'll use the UTC time zone. All right, so we're back to normal time on Friday, guys. 5 p.m. UTC. That's 10 a.m. for anyone in Arizona who happens to be, in this spot here or in my time zone. And yeah, that said, we'll see you guys then. Be sure and drop by. Again, remember, we're all about putting quality art in the hands of quality collectors. So if there are people in your circle that you really want to make sure they have IP rights and full ownership of what it is that they're purchasing, make sure you bring them in, connect them with myself or Alex. We'll always take really good care of them. And until then, guys, we will see you in the next episode. Take care.